Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started, and then I'll just admit people as they come along. Nice group today. Glad that you're here. This is the DevOps interview, and I was at one time a DevOps tech lead for a while. And so it's actually an area I know quite a bit from, not just from study, but actually doing the job. So I'm excited to do this. You will see a lot of interview questions today. There is a fun and active way to do that. I'm going to show you actually not only how to prepare for the interview, but how to actually learn more and become better at your field through a fun way. And of course, if you haven't heard of ChatGPT yet, you shall see it in action today quite a bit. So with that said, let's go on to the next slide. Today, of course, we'll be preparing for the DevOps interview. And we have a number of other meetups coming, so let me just review those. Becoming a Google Professional Cloud Architect, we'll be doing that on the 22nd of April. I do plan to put a Udemy course up on that for that as well. So that will be one of my first Udemy courses. So I'll see if I make it. So I almost made it this time, but not quite, but we'll see possibly next time. Acing the AWS Certified Data Analytics Specialty exam will be on the 20th of May. Becoming a Microsoft Powered BI Data Analyst, PL 300. Be on the 24th of June. 3 study plans at once: AWS Cloud Practitioner, Solutions Architect, and Professional, all on the 22nd of July. So you get 3 study plans on that one. Acing the PCEP, it's the Python entry-level exam. That will be using ChatGPT. So I'll show you specifically how to use that to study, and you'll see some of that today as well. That said, coming up on the 16th of September, we'll be doing Microsoft Azure Enterprise Data Analyst Associate. Then coming up on the 21st of October will be the AWS Certified Advanced Networking Specialty. And then you'll do HashiCorp on the next month, 18th of November, and designing, implementing cloud native applications using Microsoft Azure Cosmos DB on the 16th of December. So I planned way out, I typically do, and it always comes fast, and I think it should. I most likely will be adding some more stuff as well on DevOps throughout the year. So you'll see more DevOps, a lot of DevOps this year. With that said, just a little bit about myself. My name is Mike Lively, of course, and I started this meetup about a year and a half ago at my wife's urging. I had run a meetup before; it was an in-person, and it was during the pandemic, and we were supposed to go back to work and didn't. And my wife said, "You got to do something different." So I said, "I guess I'll start a meetup." And this was my first online meetup. And at the time, I had like 8 cloud certifications. I thought, well, I can teach you how to get a certification. Shows you that you actually end up getting blessed more when you try to bless other people, because now I have like 25 plus certifications in various areas: AWS, Azure, Google, Terraform, etc. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. Spent 20 plus years in education, and then I transitioned to industry about 14 years ago. I work for a Fortune 500 company in the Cincinnati area. Started off as a .NET developer, front-end work, and then I became a DevOps tech lead and Scrum Master for about 3.5 years. Became the QA architect for about 3 years, and then they had me create some curriculum for them, and they decided to make me manager of training and documentation. Previously, I've worked in the government. I was in education where I was a CSIS scholar for a while, and a military captain in the United States Air Force. There you have it. That said, today is going to be Mike's intro and icebreaker. I have a standard intro I do. We'll be talking a little bit about Code Cloud. So if you're into DevOps, definitely need to know about Code Cloud. I don't work for them, and I'm not getting any royalties off telling you about that. It's a great service, great site if you want to learn DevOps. With that said, we'll do the DevOps interview, entry level. I'll talk about the different questions that you might get. And that's part of the interview YouTube I sent you. In the appendix, we have a ton of extra information. So if you scroll down to the appendix in the slide deck that I gave you, you will see, let's go over some of those. Basically, Jenkins certification. If you're into doing Jenkins, probably one of the first things you need to learn with DevOps. And then there's a 5 Kubernetes questions and solutions using ChatGPT. I show you how to use ChatGPT to solve Kubernetes today. There is how to get free Azure certs, and you go there and you can actually get free certifications if you take those courses, and the courses are free as well. And more interview questions. I throw a bunch of questions about Jenkins and Docker and Kubernetes, what you might expect, and then basically the video script that I'm for the YouTube that we'll be talking about today that I wrote, and also CK exam. So if you're going to go do the certified Kubernetes admin, here's some really good questions that you can study as well. So we'll look at that today as well. With that said, let's go into my standard introduction. And first, let me ask you, are there any questions before we move on? I used to start off with a slide like this. I said, coding is like hand stitching of yesterday. The AI sewing machine is coming. Well, I don't have to say that anymore. It is here. And we're at the point now with AI, you can just type in, give me this code, and it does. And recently, the last week, GPT-4 was released, and it's even better. When GPT first came out, it did not do Kubernetes, which I was very disappointed. And now just in 3.5, it started doing Kubernetes, and 4, it's even better. So there you have it. The AI sewing machine is here. What we've learned to do is put human intelligence in a box. And I just love it. And from an educational perspective, you have to understand, if you're like me, when you're in college, you would go ask the instructor a question. You would wait several hours to get access to him. And then you would afraid to ask him the real question you wanted because you didn't want him to know how dumb you were. So you kind of veiled it with something that sounded intelligence. He would ramble on. You didn't understand the thing he said. And then that was it. But with GPT, all you have to do is type your question. It doesn't care how dumb it is. And it'll give you all the information you want. You can keep interacting with it, almost like you would interact with a human tutor. So there you go. And a lot of people are going to be using it for that. With that said, let's talk about, does AI end well? Well, in 2023, they said ChatGPT 4 would come out. Well, it's already out. I'm sure 5 and 6 are following close behind. Around 2026, we expect it to approach AGI. AGI is artificial general intelligence, where machines can pretty much do everything humans can do from an intellectual perspective. And then in 2030, we find that they will do all our jobs and also be weaponized. And if you've been watching what's going on overseas, the race war has pretty much become the drone wars, and everyone's building drones and using AI to do things we wish it wouldn't do. So there you have it. 2020 and 2036, it predicted AI will reach ASI, which is artificial superintelligence, where these machines are making Nobel Prize-like advancements every 2 or 3 days, where it takes us a lifetime. So kind of when you start working with these technologies, oh, it's fun and exciting. It's also kind of scary. So how are we going to survive this? We shall see. There you go. The one thing about these type of technologies, which are brand new, they're coming on the scene. Of course, AI has been around for a while, but the acceleration in it is just mind-boggling. Well, here's an example of what you might think is the chandelier. It's actually a quantum computer. And when these things come online, they not only make our lives better, make things go faster, but they create new experiences. And that's kind of where we're at. We get these machines, we do this type of technology, and we're not doing the same thing anymore. And so you'll see the same thing with ChatGPT as I work with it today. So good. If you haven't seen ChatGPT or used it, well, you're going to see it today. Let's start off with our icebreaker. What is the most unique question or experience you've ever had in a job interview? And did you get the job? All right, if you think of anything else, let me know. We're going to move on with the presentation. Really good responses. I appreciate it so much. And thanks, guys. Feel free to interact with me through chat or just say something during the presentation. I love hearing from you guys. So let's move on. All right, just a few things. Sometimes people come and they're brand new to DevOps and they don't know what it is. And so here's a nice question. What is DevOps? And so the first thing I'm going to do nowadays is I'm going to bring up my system. If I don't know something and I want to know it, and I'm going to go right to ChatGPT, and I'll show you how this works. If you're not used to know what ChatGPT is, it is the out of OpenAI. It is the now chat assistants. ChatGPT 4 has come out. We'll use 3.5 since it's a little faster. And I might say, what is DevOps? And it's going to be pretty verbose, and it's going to start answering that. It's kind of like crazy, you know. And with that said, well, summarize in one sentence. It remembers what I do, okay, in one sentence. And it says that DevOps is a set of practices and aims to align development and operation teams to increase efficiency, collaboration, and automation through the entire software development process. Well, okay. And so a lot of people, you've seen this symbol before where you have the dev and the ops and the idea. The idea was to bring dev and ops together, right? Get them working together so you can create these CI/CD pipelines and release more rapidly. Okay, yeah. Now, in reality, that's not completely true. one of the emphasis of DevOps at the beginning was to basically automate infrastructure. And the idea was you can fix something in dev pretty quick, but in infrastructure, if you have an error, it takes a long time to fix it. Now, with that emphasis, you can see in the cloud, DevOps is just right in the cloud. I mean, it's there. And so you want to make sure you've got the other side working, dev and ops talking together. And so you can deliver very rapidly. And when I was in DevOps, a lot of our work was actually getting that CI/CD pipeline working on the QA piece, so you can actually do the automated deployment. And so if you're going to do automated deployment, you have to have a huge, QA net. With that said, another big difference. People say, "Well, isn't DevOps agile?" And the answer is not quite. I was a Scrum Master also for about 3 years, and the point is that the definition of done is really what differentiates the two. I mean, there's a lot of other things that are different, but with the definition of done in Scrum, it was deployable software. And then you go, what does that really mean? I did some deployable software. But in DevOps, the definition of done was deployed. You have a real thing, it's running, and it's out there. Okay. So just a quickie on with that. Now, with that, indeed, that I also have created a DevOps interview on YouTube. And I used Beyond for the animated characters, and I used OpenAI for the voices. So you can go ahead and look at that link. So let me re-put my links in the chat, because sometimes people don't see them when they come in. So if you want this presentation, okay, here is a link for the presentation. Here's the video I created. So, and believe it or not, I use ChatGPT to completely create this video. So we'll talk about how that's done as well. And you'll learn how to accelerate your learning process through using ChatGPT today as well. So if you want to look at the YouTube video, it's there as well. And we'll look at some pieces of it as well, because it's pretty long. All right, with that said, just a few things. If you're doing DevOps, there's 3 types of levels of DevOps. There's the beginning level, the intermediate level, and the advanced. If you're going for a beginners like DevOps, and this can divide differently depending on what type of job you're going for and how you see the DevOps career field. But if you're a beginner, the type technologies you need to know are DevOps basics. What's a CI/CD pipeline, metrics and monitoring. You need to understand Git and work with Git, shell scripting, Jenkins, and Docker. That's pretty much the entry level. If you have those skills under your belt, you should do well going in for the interview. When you're at the intermediate level, you need to have that Linux under your belt, be able to work with Linux, Kubernetes, cloud, and then you should have some certifications in Azure or AWS. So it depends on what kind of career field you're going into. A lot of businesses are using Azure, but AWS is, of course, widely used as well. Pipelines, testing, and security. And you might see something like SonarQube or some other type of testing or linting software out there you need to know about. Once you move into the advanced level, like the architectural level, you'll see things like infrastructure as code, Ansible, Puppet, Terraform, Helm, which of course orchestrate Kubernetes with, Python and Node.js, where you're actually working with service as a function, vaults, and you need to be able to optimize cost and performance, those type of things you would see in those type of interview questions. We will be specifically looking at the entry level today, but I'll show you how to prepare for the advanced level as well. Okay. Any questions so far as we move on? All right. So if you want to know or get involved or learn DevOps, one of the best sites I know is Code Cloud. Now, I do not work for Code Cloud, let you know that right away, and nor are they paying me, nor do I know Momshed Manavath, but his site is amazing, and I spent a lot of time on there studying DevOps as well. And there's a number of things I like about his site, and it is that he has about 50 plus courses devoted to DevOps. A number of them are Udemy, and that's how you find Code Cloud, is you take a Udemy course, and it's just really good. How do I learn more? And you end up finding that you're actually in Code Cloud. And Patricia says, I have their subscription also, a Cloud Guru. Yeah, Cloud Guru is a good site as well. Excellent. Yeah, I agree. All right, with that said, they have learning paths. And what I really am going to emphasize today, which is the most important part of Code Cloud to me, are the playgrounds. And so we'll look at those as well, and how you can use ChatGPT to interact with the playgrounds to do something I call child learning. There's tons of directed labs. We'll look at some of those. They have interview questions, and they have something that a lot of us are thinking about, and that's the Code Cloud Engineer. So what Momshad worries about, and what I also worried about, is that when we teach you guys stuff like getting certified, and we talk about certification a lot in this forum, well, what do you do next? How do you get a job? And so one of the reasons he actually started cloud engineers to try to get people into like a simulated real job environment. So you go in there and you actually kind of get some real hands-on experience. I think about this a lot. I mean, at some point, I'd like to create a nonprofit where I can bring in interns, some of you guys, to work and make money and actually get real job experiences so you can actually get into the field and actually get started. So I think about this all the time. How do you do this? How do you make it happen? So it's not that I'm trying to create a business or trying to create, money, but I'm trying to create, a place where people can actually get job skills once they get certified. And that's one of the things I think that lacks with certification training. With that said, I think Patricia said, I recommend you guys to get on Black Friday and get a 50% discount. Absolutely. All these services that I talk about, Patricia, I appreciate that comment, is that like Udemy, I'll take a Udemy course and watch for the deals, because one day it can be $100 and the next day it can be 10. So always watch for those deals. And Patricia also says you have a career that at the end, they also train you for interview to get absolutely. Once again, thank you so much for that comment. And no, career path. Thank you. And Zoe says, yes, excellent. Very good. Good. There are lots of people out there trying to train you and prepare you for these interviews, and I appreciate those services. I do want to show you a little about CodeCloud, and we'll talk about it. It is a service that I use and I like, but it's not the only one out there. I think Patricia has mentioned CodeCloud as well. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to just show you a little bit what you can do here and what you might expect in this particular one. So I'll demonstrate some of that. They have lots of courses, and so typical thing that you see on Udemy where you could go through and you actually can learn, through watching a video, and then they have labs that you can actually go to and run. I specifically want to look at one of their labs today for you guys. And getting that hands-on is really important. And this is one for Kubernetes and actually trying to create a pod. Real simple lab we'll do real quick. All right, so the way his system works is he has all these labs you can do that are linked through the video courses. You take a video, then you go do a lab. And in this particular lab, we're going to create a pod. If you're working with Kubernetes, maybe you want to go get the CKA exam, Certified Kubernetes Admin exam. And the first thing you'll do, the lab will load itself. Okay, give that a moment. And you're in the lab and you have a series of exercises that you can do. And he has a little prompt, just like you're in a prompt. And so in this particular case, I might want to K means Kubernetes, get PO, which means pods. And it says there's no pods there. So for the first answer is, 0. So it'll take you to the next exercise and okay, hey, let's create a pod using Nginx. Now I know how to do that, but I might not. So it's nice in this, I can have a hint, okay? Or you might have the actual solution, okay? So in this particular case, I know if you want to create a pod, you just go, okay, run. And he wants to do an Nginx pod. I guess you're going to call it Nginx as well, Nginx, and then you put your image in there. And it actually pulls the image from the web. So it's actually a real sandbox. So and it runs it, pod was created, okay, get PO. And you can see there's your pod, right? And then you can do a description. You can see it's still loading. It's got a 0/1, and you can do a description K, describe, PO, and then you can use tab complete to finish that up, and I'll give you a description of the pod. And you can see down here, it's loading. Good. So that's how his labs go. He also has tests that don't give you a hint. You just walk through. We won't do one of those. That pretty much is how one of his labs look. Okay. So if you're interested in doing that type of work and gaining hands-on experience, I suggest CodeCloud. Like I think a lot of people use other services. I use this one, and you're going to see why is I love the sandbox, and you'll see that in a moment. So iPhone says, will this recording be available for attendees? Yes, I will be releasing this recording. After this meeting, I typically go through and edit what I do to clean it up a little bit, and I send it out. So you guys will be seeing the recording. Excellent. With that said, I want to talk a little bit about his playgrounds. So this is one thing that I really think is really important, is that you have a playground, and you're going to see why in a minute. We'll be leaning on them here in a second. All right, so let's take a look at his playgrounds. You need to have some type of playground so you can get that hands-on and learning experience as you're learning DevOps. And here's his playgrounds. And he has a lot of them. So he has the Google, Azure, and AWS. So if you, like me, you don't want to wake up with a $500 bill one morning, which I did, and begged forgiveness, and they gave it to me. It was an Azure thing I was working on. And then they have the Linux playgrounds. They have the Kubernetes playgrounds, which you should be proficient in. They have a lot of other playgrounds. Some of these I have not used in my lifetime. Istio, that's a nice one. K8s, clusters, Helm, You need to know your Helm, that's for sure. Playgrounds, they have the Docker, Podman, HashiCorp, definitely gotta, if you're gonna move on and do infrastructure as code for various systems, Terraform will work for any of the Azures or DevOps, AWS or Google. It's just cross-platform. CI/CD playgrounds, definitely get your Jenkins under your belt. Walking in there, you got your Ansibles, your Chefs, and your Puppets, and all these playgrounds that you don't have to worry about paying for or bringing up in your systems. They're there automatically, and then you just hit the playground. We're going to do that today, and that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. All right. With that said, one of the things this enables you to do is what I call child learning. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to ChatGPT. I'm going to generate a scenario, and I'm going to let ChatGPT teach me about what I need to learn. And then I'm going to go to a code cloud playground, and I'm going to solve that problem. Okay, so Krishna says, are these playgrounds included with subscription? Yes, they are. Okay. Or no, there are no more charges. Once you get the yearly fee, you can use the playgrounds with that fee. Okay, with that said, the way I use these playgrounds is what I call child learning. Now, if you go to ChatGPT and you say, what is child learning? You'll get back the first 10, and then the 11, I threw that in. So we got to think about, when it comes to learning, how does a child learn? And a child learns by play, observation, experimentation, trial, and error. There is some directed linear learning where we say, now you need to do that or that. There's feedback, exploration, active participation, collaboration, reflection. There's also immersion. If you think about it, children come with no idea, and we throw them into the most complex situations, and they learn like crazy. And so we need to kind of create that same type of learning environment using the tools that we have now. We have not necessarily been able to do that until the advent of AI. With typically our learning is limited to like direct linear instruction. We bring people in, they sit them down in a classroom. We start with these real basics. If I ask a question about something else, the instructor tells me to be quiet, he's going to eventually or not get to that. So you don't have that. So you lose those two really important elements that you really need. And to fun learning, what I call child learning, is exploration and discovery and active engagement. And that means children learn best when they are actively engaged in the learning process, doing things with their hands, building things. Today, you go into a classroom, if a kid's too actively engaged, we drug them. We say, you're ADD, you need to take this medicine, calm down and listen. And that is not a productive learning experience. So in addition, there is immersion. And then in the immersion process, we can introduce structured learning when it's needed. And we call this a place to hang your hat. If I try to teach you something and you know nothing about it, you're not going to learn it well. But if you've been exposed to an experience, then I try to teach it to you, it hangs. You learn faster. Many times I tell people when they're studying for a certification, start with questions right away. And the reason you want to start with questions right away is because you start introducing these things into your mind, these things you're not sure of, you don't know how they work. And then when you start going through the material, it sticks. And that's one of the things you want to do. So with that said, I'm going to show you how to do that. So say that I'm studying for the CKA exam, and the CKA is the Certified Kubernetes Admin exam. So I can go right into ChatGPT and say, give me some lab questions. What's the exam going to be like? So let's do that. So I'll go to ChatGPT. And by the way, ChatGPT is free. However, if you, like me, I have the paid version, and I got ChatGPT 4. We'll do this in 3. And give me some 5 CKA lab exam questions. And there's going to spit them out. Okay. This is a great way to learn. Okay. So I've already got some of these written out, so I won't use they're always different, so I won't use these. I'll talk about the ones I had written out. So I did the same exercise. I said, ChatGPT, give me some lab questions. It spit out 5. Let's look at the first one. The first lab question was, deploy a multi-container pod with 2 containers using the following specifications. Container 1 is going to have a front end with an image Nginx 121, port 80, excuse me. Container 2 will have a name backend, image Redis 62, port 63979. That's your DB. So you had your web container is your one, and your database container is your other. Typical scenario in the cloud. So with that said, I may not know what to do. I'm looking at that. Well, I've never seen that type of question before. I don't know what the heck they're talking about. And so what do? So what you do is you take that question, all right, and you paste it right back into ChatGPT. So let's bring that up. And when you do that, ChatGPT is going to answer that question for you and give you code on how to do it. All right, so there you have it. So with that said, it's going to go ahead. Well, you know, if you want to solve this question, you're going to create this image with the two containers. Here's my first container front end, my second container back end. And then you're going to put this YAML in, use a VI to put this YAML in and do a create, and it will make it for you. But I don't really understand what's going on. So I'm going to say, explain your answer. So I've never seen this before. So it's actually explaining the answer. There you go. And it's telling me, you know, how it works. And well, maybe I want to have that summarized. So it's very verbose. So I say summarize. Okay, and what you guys are probably seeing is what it usually take me a long time to search the web and find out. I'm getting those answers pretty quickly. Okay, so I think there's discussion, Patricia, with the three type of plans that that are out there. So I won't jump into that one, but thank you so much for that response. Okay, so I have all that. So I'm there, and so I've got the answer. It's explained it to me, but what the heck do I do now? Because I really need to get that hands-on experience. I really want to make this run, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, this is where I'm going to use that playground, right? I'm going to go to my playground, and I'm going to open up a code cloud, and I'm going to put this solution in there, and I'm going to run it. And that's how I'm going to get my hands on. So let's go to Code Cloud Playgrounds. Let's go ahead and stick it in there and run it. Of course, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to put that YAML in there. So let me grab that. And you got to be careful about cut and pasting out of PowerPoint, by the way. You really want to cut and paste from ChatGPT, but I'll go ahead and do it here. And of course, you know, if you've worked with this type of thing before, you want to make sure you use your VI. So let's go and do that. I'm going to VI, I'll call it multi-container pod. So let's go ahead and do that. VI multi-container pod.yaml. And let's go ahead and paste in there, yes. And then I can go ahead my WQ, and now I have it in there. If you do a list, you can see there it is right there. You can cat it if you want to look at it. Use tab complete, there it is. Okay, let's go back to the top. So that's in there. Now what I want to do is I actually want to apply that and create that pod that has those two containers. So K, that's a short name for coup control. Apply minus F. Someone needs, and use my tab to complete. Someone needs to mute their audio. There's a sound in the background. Okay, and now it created the pod. I can go get pod just to make sure it's there. And there it is creating. So right now there's 0 pods, but it's in the process creating. If I keep going get pod or do a status on it, it'll eventually show me. And there the 2 pods are ready. I can do a describe to see the pods as well. So K describe get pod. Sorry. Oh, let's take a look at the multi-container pod. I did something wrong. Try post. Sorry about that. There you go. There you go. And there's my describe. You can see there's the PO. So that's how I use it. I mean, it's just really nice because now I'm rapidly coding and coming up with great solutions and things I'd never seen before, places to hang my hat. I'm getting explanations. So you can also add to ChatGPT a extension, which is called, it's a Chrome extension, which is called Web Chat GPT. So if you actually want to get links to go do more research on the actual system that you are looking at, you could actually do the same thing here. Let's do that real quick. Go back to ChatGPT. Within that, if you have the web extension, you can turn it on. So it will now pull links from the web. I could go back and take that same question, right? And I can put that same question back in. And as it's giving me the answer, it can actually pull links from the web that I can go and do research on. So you can see actually it will start pulling links as it's answering, hopefully. Cross your fingers if I didn't do it too fast. And I probably put it in too fast, so it's not pulling links from me right now. There it is. There's it's pulling links for me right now. And you can see it pulled 2 links for me. You can tell it how many links that you want. And you can go there and you can hit those links and you can learn more. And there comes up Code Cloud. So if someone mentioned, oh, there's Kubernetes. Okay, there you go. And pull that real quick. And there's some more information if you want to learn. So there's the full cycle, kind of and you just have fun with it. And that's the thing. And it really rapidly increases how much you can learn and do. So I just want to show that to you guys as one way to learn these technologies very rapidly. And then if you look at the explanation, here's a nice link that I got back when I did the link search, and it's the Kubernetes docs. And if you are aware that you can use the Kubernetes docs on this particular exam, if you're going for the CKA, and here I can see I go to this doc, I see this particular YAML, I just copy it again, I have the solution. Now, with that said, there are also, to help you along, once you've done this type of thing and you say, I need to learn more, I need more of a learning path, it turns out that a lot of these providers, even CodeCloud has a nice learning path for learning DevOps. So we're gonna look at their learning path real quick. Okay. And we'll eventually move on from CodeCloud here in a second, but I wanna make sure that you've seen some of this before we move on. Because it's something that I use. So, and many of you guys will use other services, but you need to use something to help you come up to speed. With that said, they have a number of learning paths. We'll look at their DevOps learning path. And so if you're going in for the DevOps interview, you definitely want to look at the first part of that interview. If you're going in for that beginners, where you're learning 12-factor, DevOps prerequisite course, Git for beginners, a little bit more Linux, and of course, shell scripting. So if you're working with Linux or you're working with Jenkins, excuse me, you'll end up probably doing some shell scripting in the Jenkins interface. Then you go into that second level where you're getting your Docker, your Golang, your Jenkins, your Kubernetes under your belt, and then you'll learn about Ansible basics and then possibly some Terraform. Then you're learning about your Python, your Chef, and your more Kubernetes and your Puppet. So those type of things. And then what he actually has an interview course, preparation course. I actually got my inspiration for doing this presentation from this course. However, when I took this course, I actually was a little disappointed. And I was not disappointed because the course was bad. I think it's a really good course, and it does outline the major technologies that you need to know. But I was disappointed because I thought I was going to learn all this stuff and I was going to go ahead and slam this interview, but I actually knew a lot of these answers already. So I went, wow. So it's because I've been in DevOps for a while. So I knew, and I'd been in testing for a while. So a lot of these things make sense to me. And I'd worked with a lot of these technologies. And so I really asked this fundamental question, well, what are the right questions? You know, I mean, are his questions magical? If I learn all his questions, will I pass a DevOps interview? Will I see those questions on the DevOps interview? And the answer is maybe some of them, you know. And really, these questions are designed to let you know what you don't know, what you need to learn more of. And so what I really think about, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves and one of my frustrations when I do these technologies or when I do these certifications, is when I take some of these exams, I sometimes wonder, where in the heck did they get these questions? And not to say for all, I have both the DevOps certification for AWS and the DevOps certification for Azure. And when I took both those exams, I went, what planet are these guys on? Why did they ask those questions? And so one of the things I always want to think about is how can I systematically bring learning, you know, and learn this material in a way that makes sense? And so that's my question is being systematic using child learning. How do you do that? And so the big way to do that is I created this DevOps interview for you guys using ChatGPT. Yes, you can learn and create your own courses. You don't have to run off and create a course somewhere else. Just let ChatGPT do it for you. And I'm going to give you an example of how to do that. And here's a whole course outline that was created by ChatGPT just by asking it to. And we're going to do that today. So for now, it says, this is a great for folks wanting to break into a DevOps career like me. Oh, great. Thanks for that. Thank you, Parnell, for that question. Kristen says, I think you get people excited about ChatGPT explains the things. Yeah, I am excited about ChatGPT myself. I have to say that ChatGPT has accelerated my workflow 100x. So what I can do now, what used to take me 4 months to do, using ChatGPT, I can do in 10 hours. iPhone says, I do apologize if you had addressed this already. Will CodeCloud give someone who has never been in tech an opportunity to learn along with hands-on learning? Yes, that's what it's designed for. CodeCloud is actually designed to help you start from beginning. Absolutely, iPhone. Thank you for that question. So let's move on. So if you take the prompt here and you say, give me an outline of DevOps course, I'll do that. And then we're going to create DevOps interview questions from it. So let's go ahead and do that. So go to ChatGPT. All right, and let me bring that up. We'll say a little bit goodbye to Code Cloud. Okay, so I want to bring that to you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'll turn off the web access, and then I can do a 4. It's going to be slower, but it's going to be more cognitive than the other one. So put that in, and I'm going to say, hey, give me a DevOps course. And so what it's going to do, it's going to create a DevOps course for me. And I apologize. ChatGPT 4 is a little slower than 3. And it's a slower, but it's also more cognitive. So it's going to give you more of what you're actually asking for. It kind of tries to know what you're thinking. Okay. One of my daughter's boyfriends were over the other night, and he's was having a difficult time programming, and he was using MATLAB. And so he came over and he said, I'm having problems, Mike. Can you help me? I said, sure. So I went to ChatGPT, and he gave me his question, which took him 2 hours to do, and ChatGPT solved it and gave him the program in 30 seconds. He couldn't believe it. And then what happened is I said, well, create a scenario. I said, write a screenplay about me and his name's Brady, about ChatGPT, about us learning about MATLAB. It actually said ChatGPT, it talked about Mike and Brady standing over the computer trying to solve a MATLAB problem, and just blew the guy away because it almost sounded like the machine knew what we were doing. Yeah, and so right here you can see it created an entire outline, and so I can actually take one of these and start putting them into ChatGPT again and getting information on that and summarizing that and creating a job interview question from it. So let's do that. So I'm actually going to go back to my presentation and use what I printed out, so I don't try to go back because it's not always the same with ChatGPT. They give you different answers every time. So when I did this exercise a few days ago, the first module it gave me was the DevOps interview and culture, and it says overview of DevOps principles and the DevOps culture and mindset, DevOps organizational structure and team roles, and DevOps communication. So that was module 1. So I just took the first one, okay, and I pasted that back into ChatGPT to get the answer for that. So let's do that. I'll throw that in there. So you can imagine the interviewer asking you the question, can you give me an overview of the DevOps principles and practices? Okay, and so you put that in there. All right. And so DevOps is a set of principles and practices that aims to improve collaboration between software developers and IT teams. And it's going to be very verbose, and it's going to go on and on. But one of the great things that ChatGPT can do as a natural language processor is summarize. And not only can it summarize small amounts of information, it can summarize large amounts of information, like 25,000 lines. It can just give me a paragraph of that 25,000 lines, and it will. In this case, once this is complete, we're going to say, give me a summary. And we're going to do that. And then that would be the answer to this question in the job interview. So isn't that crazy? And then we'll look at the video real quick. And I'll explain to you what I did in the video. So if you just logged in, you don't see the links in the chat. Here they are. Here's the PDF for today's presentation. Also the YouTube that I'll be covering here in a moment. Okay. So it's pretty robust, but you say summarize in a paragraph. Okay, and so it'll take all that and let me summarize it in a paragraph for you, which is great. Now, go ahead and let you know that Microsoft has actually put billions into OpenAI, into ChatGPT, and they're getting ready to integrate AI into their entire 365 chain. So you're going to be doing AI in everything, in your Word, in your Teams, in your Excel. So you're going to go into Excel in the future and say, summarize this data, give me a graph, and it's going to do that. Okay, so this is coming, and shortly, I think within the next year, you'll see your entire Office 365 tool chain updated with these type of artificial intelligence engines. So if that said, it gave me this nice little blurb that I can stick into OpenAI or into 11 Labs and get a voice from, and that's how I created the video presentation. So now let's go to YouTube, and I'll show you what I have for you. So first, what I want to do is do a sound check and see if you guys can hear the audio, okay, and can see the video, okay. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, some people said there's no audio. Okay, sorry to hear that. Let me see if I can share with audio. Excellent, but you can see the video. Okay. No, we can't hear. Okay, so let's see if there's a share with the share of the audio. And I will figure this out in a presentation. So the way I created this video is I actually did that. I actually went through and started putting these different topics in here. And I want to talk through some of these topics and some of these answers. And you have the video, so you definitely want to watch that if you start preparing for the DevOps interview. So if you look at that, and I see I have another of stars here. The stars that I'm interested in are some of the technologies that ChatGPT said I probably should learn for the DevOps interview, right? And you can see Jenkins and Git and Travis CI. And here you see Dockers and Kubernetes and Helms and Ansible. And you see Elk and Stack and Prometheus and Grafana. So a lot of these different technologies you probably should learn and know. It's being pulled out and told to me by ChatGPT to learn. With that said, I'm going to go through and I began building this video and building these modules out. Okay, so someone asked me what tool did I use for the animation. In this particular case, I used Beyond for the animation. Let me put that in here. .com, and for the voices, I use 11 Labs. The voices for AI for a while were terrible. Thank you for the question, by the way, Matt. The voices for a while for AI were terrible, but now they're getting really good. And one more click, you won't be able to tell between that and human. Now, I actually, 11 Labs also, which is an OpenAI product, also will do custom voices. And the custom voices are even better than out of the box. So it's really getting close to not being able to distinguish between human. And that's what actually also accelerates my workflow, because if I don't have to sit down and do a recording session, do an editing session, I can use an 11 Labs, for example, to do the audio for me. I can really rip out video very quickly. All right, with that said, in the DevOps interview, there's a few things I just wanted to point out. The first one I did already cover. And in this interview question, I said, please give me an overview of the DevOps principles and practices. That is at the 32-second mark. And all I did was the same thing I showed you. I put that question into ChatGPT. I summarized it as an answer, and then I had the interview ask that question, and I used the summarized answer that I got from ChatGPT. The next question I like is, please share an example of a time when you explained continuous integration to someone and describe what you taught them. And what I liked about this particular animation, I just had fun with it. And I did something a few weeks ago, which I called brain-based learning. We just have fun with the content using ChatGPT. And by the way, guys, feel free to ask anything that you want to. I will be more than glad to answer your questions. That's why I'm here, okay? I do not get tired or bored or unexcited about your questions. I actually just the opposite. I really love chatting with you. And that's why I started this whole meetup, was so I could have a little bit more outlet than just sitting at my desk all day and wondering when the pandemic was going to be over, if ever. So I believe this one was at 326, where he's asked this question. And what he's doing this question, he starts imagining talking to a friend, telling him, or an intern, and telling him all about continuous integration. So what the interview is asking him, have you ever taught someone about DevOps? And this is a question that you might get on an interview. Have you ever instructed or helped someone learn DevOps? Because when they're hiring, sometimes they just don't want someone that can do it. They want, especially if they're new, they want someone who can multiply themselves. So in this particular interview question, he's talking about an instance where he actually had someone come in that need to learn about DevOps. Now, when you're doing the interview process, you want to use something called the STAR technique. If you're new to interviewing, you haven't done it before, the STAR technique is a really great way to keep your thoughts together. And what you do in the STAR technique is first you talk about the situation, and then you talk about a technique or a task that you had to accomplish. You talk about what you did to accomplish that task, or the action, and then you talk about the results. And in this particular interview question, he does that. He says, Tom came on, he was an interview, he was a new intern. I taught him all about the CI/CD pipeline. He asked a lot of questions, and it turned out he became a great employee, something like that, right? So that was that question. So I enjoyed having a lot of fun using ChatGPT to do that.
I started by introducing him to Jenkins, an open source automation server that's widely used for continuous integration and deployment.
Thank you so much. Patricia,
Jenkins
right
supports
on.
various programming languages and integrates with multiple tools, making it a popular choice for many development teams. Next,
Well, this makes this a much better presentation. Thank you so much. I always say I learn more from you guys than you learn from me, so I appreciate it so much. Let's move on. So that we talked about that interview, and this is an idea where he's using the STAR technique. He's talking about a situation where he had to teach a new intern, and then what task he had to do, and then what action he took, and what were the results. So good interview question. You might get one like this in an interview. I mentioned this was a DevOps oriented, or excuse me, an AWS oriented presentation. So here's question 9. He may be asked, what AWS technology would you use instead of Jenkins? And so that you can just take that question right here. And as I mentioned, if you're not sure what that might be, you just go back to ChatGPT and just put the question in there, and ChatGPT will answer it for you. The technology that you're going to use here is Code Pipeline, of course, right? If you're familiar with AWS, you would do that. And then what you would do for the video, you'd say, well, summarize. And I could just say in one sentence. And if I spell something wrong, ChatGPT doesn't care. It just corrects it for me. And the answer here is in AWS, AWS Code Pipeline can be used as an alternative to Jenkins for continuous integration. And in the interview question, he talks about it a little bit more and gives you some of the subtleties. I just gave you that as an example. Here's another question that you might get in an interview, which I kind of like doing. Describe an incident where your DevOps build, automation, and testing strategy saved the day. And this is another STAR technique. And this is a question that you might get. How did you use DevOps to fix something? How do you use it to make something better? How did it save the day? So that's at 12:45. Let's take a look at that particular answer in the video that I sent you guys.
Describe an incident where your DevOps build, automation, and testing strategy saved the day.
It was a typical Monday morning at the headquarters of a large e-commerce company. The development team had been working on a major update to their website for weeks, and the release was scheduled for that afternoon. Everyone was nervous but excited to see their hard work come to fruition. However, things took a turn for the worse when one of the developers discovered a critical bug in the code. The bug was causing the website to crash intermittently, and the team had no idea how to fix it. With the clock ticking down to the release, the project manager called an emergency meeting with my DevOps team. My team quickly got to work, analyzing the code and trying to isolate the source of the problem. Using our extensive knowledge of automation and testing strategies, my team was able to quickly identify the root cause of the issue. We implemented a fix, and then ran a series of automated tests to ensure that the bug had been completely resolved. Thanks to the fast action of my team, the bug was fixed in record time. The updated website was released on schedule, and our customers were thrilled with the new features and improvements. The incident had been a stressful one, but it was also a valuable learning experience for my team. We realized the importance of having a strong DevOps strategy in place, and went to work integrating automated testing into the full development process.
I got to tell you, if you give an answer like that into a DevOps interviewer, you're probably going to get the job. That's really cool. So I have a few questions here in the chat. Let me go ahead and handle those. I think from Zoe said, do I join the API waiting list on ChatGPT? Absolutely. What it is that when ChatGPT first came out a couple of months ago, it pretty much broke the internet, and they were surprised. They didn't expect and just millions of developers jump onto it. And so it became a waiting list, and sometimes you couldn't get on. And so they came up with a paid version. So I paid $20 a month for mine, and I get on whenever I want. And with ChatGPT 4, it is sometimes bottlenecked. There's so many people on it that sometimes you can only ask it 50 questions in 4 hours or something like that. I had that the other day, and then sometimes it's okay. So they're experiencing a lot more uptake than they ever expected. And so as it is still free, but for the higher versions, you'll end up paying for it. So I would suggest you play around with it first before you buy this prescription. But I do pay $20 a month for mine, and I do get on whenever I want. So just want to let you know. So with that said, I think Jim Collins had a code pipeline. I did this work. Yeah, yeah, I love it for sure. Yeah, building code pipelines. That's the heart, right? The meat and potatoes of DevOps. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and look at the next interview question. Okay. All right, let me go back. Okay, we did that one, and let's go look at the next one. You've mentioned Git previously in our interview. Please outline a Git training program that you might teach our development team. Now, this might not be a question that you're going to get in a DevOps interview. However, if they're looking for someone, they're brand new, and they're looking for someone who they need to help teach or bring DevOps on, they might actually look for a person with this type of experience. I think that was pretty much my case. I'll give you my case as a DevOps engineer. when I was in my company, I was not really well known when I first started out, and I actually had another job. I worked for the EPA at night. So I kind of a contracting situation. And so I worked 24/7. I get up in the morning, I do my day job, and and when work was over, I'd hop onto the bus and I would start making deals with the EPA. So we were talking, I was hiring people. I had a company that had contacted me. They were subcontractors and they were losing money and they wanted help. And by the end of 2 years, they were, they made $2 million in revenue. So I'd really helped them a lot and helped them bring on people. Some guy on the bus that I didn't know was listening to all these conversations and, oh my Lord, I need to hire this guy. And so they decided they're going to start a DevOps group. And he asked me if I wanted to be the DevOps tech lead, which I said, of course. And so I went upstairs to start my DevOps career. And I went, where's the rest of the DevOps team? And that's no team, it was just me. So I had the opportunity to start a DevOps team from scratch, and it was a great opportunity. I had actually worked with Jim Kim for a little while. He had actually tutored me and coached me a little bit, so I knew about DevOps and what it was and what I needed to do, and so just really, really well. And so there you go. That's my experience with DevOps. But I was a trainer too, so I could go in and help people and help build a group. And so you might get a question like this, if they are brand new to DevOps, they need you to train or get something started. You may be the only guy at first.
Topics in my Git training course. 1. Understanding version control and Git. 2. Learning how to install Git on your machine. 3. Creating a new Git repository. 4. Adding and committing changes to a repository. 5. Understanding branching and merging. 6. Collaborating with others using Git. 7. Working with remote repositories. 8. Using Git to manage projects efficiently. Additionally, this course would include hands-on exercises, quizzes, and projects to ensure that learners can apply Git in real-world scenarios.
Okay, so that's what I did with that, and it's really fun, and you get some whiteboarding exercises for that. I think Corey says try zekai.co. It's free and much better. I got to tell you, there's so many AI competitors coming out there, and also Google has its competitor called BART, so that's on its way as well. So there's going to be a lot of AI options that are going to be coming at you 24/7, and right, if you find one that works for you, go for that one. But definitely use these AI technologies. I think the differentiator for people in the future of the job success is you're going to be able to use these technologies to accelerate your workflow. Yeah, thank you so much, Corey, for that comment, by the way. Okay, with that said, let's look at the next DevOps question. All right. Say, thanks, Daniel. That makes sense. Along the same lines, can you provide information on AWS uses for Git? Okay, I think we went through that. Let's take a look at this. As opposed to the developer, what is the most difficult task for the DevOps engineer? So what happens is in chapter 19, Daniel talks about the answer to this question. And what he talks about in addition is the biggest challengers for developers with Git. And the biggest challenge for a developer with Git is merging, right? But then he goes on, well, that's a developer. What's the biggest challenge for a infrastructure person with Git? And so he kind of asked that question. So let's go ahead and look at that one, 1920. Okay. I see, as I bring this on, I think Jim Collins, let's see, Zoe, bless. She says, I am new to IT, period. AWS DevOps is my first course. To be honest, I am still clueless in doing it for 4 months now. Do you think I can do this or have a shot working as DevOps? I would always say do what you love. And if you take a look, Zoe, at my presentation, I'm going to bring that up real quick here. What I would highly suggest that you do, let me go down to the appendix for you real quick. And I appreciate the question, by the way. What I would do is start here, all right? And if you see here, you can see Azure 900, AI 900, DP 900, SE 900 are 4 cloud certifications that you can get for free. And so if you go to, let me put the link in, I believe I have it down here. I'll put this in the chat so you can have these links. If you go there and sign up for those courses on Microsoft virtual training days. You can take those courses for free. And what happens is when you take those courses, you get a free voucher to take those exams. So build your knowledge in the cloud, because DevOps happens naturally in the cloud. And the more knowledge, the more cloud knowledge you get, and we'll be doing a lot more cloud presentations. The more cloud knowledge you get, the more you're going to be ready to do a DevOps career. Okay. So I really suggest that you get those cloud certs on your belt, and these are free. I'd never taken this SC 900 before. I just sat through the curriculum, and it was really good. And I'm not ready to take the exam yet, but I'll go and probably go to ChatGPT and ask it to give me an outline and build my skill sets in that and go take that certification. Yeah. 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 Great. Someone said, wow. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, do that, Zoe. And don't lose heart. All of us were a beginner at some time, and this technology can be overwhelming. And just take it easy. Start with the easy stuff. Don't try to bite off too much. And as you learn more, just add more to it. Okay, excellent. Good, good, good. Okay, let's get back to our interview. Kind of lost track there. Let me see where we were at. Thanks for your question, by the way. Okay, let's see here. Apologize, guys. Let's see. There we go. We're on this one. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead. I think we're at 1920. Is that right? Okay. Let's play it.
As opposed to the developer, what is the most difficult Git task for the DevOps engineer?
In my opinion, the most difficult Git task for the DevOps engineer is using Git with infrastructure as code. Infrastructure as code, or IAC, is an approach to infrastructure automation that uses declarative code to provision and manage IT resources. IAC tools such as Terraform, Ansible, or CloudFormation enable DevOps teams to manage infrastructure as if it were software code, allowing them to version, test, and deploy changes in a repeatable and predictable manner. However, integrating Git with IAC can be challenging, especially when managing multiple environments and dependencies. For instance, changes to infrastructure code in one environment may impact other environments, requiring careful coordination and testing.
And if you've worked with DevOps, this really is for the DevOps engineer, this is a really big issue. How should I deliver my infrastructure as code? And a lot of people actually work on that piece as well. Good, good, good. Okay, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and we don't have a whole lot more time. It's 3:24, so I want to play my favorite job interview question. And this is a question that you most likely or may not get, but sometimes I would ask a question like this. That's why I have it on here. So the question, and let me just say a few before I move on to that question, is in the job interview here around 21. The interviewer kind of takes control of the interview. This is a technique that you can actually use where you've learned enough about the job situation and you feel comfortable enough to kind of take a little bit control of the interview and direct it about your knowledge sets and how you can contribute to the company. And he starts asking Sanjay, has your organization used Git blame? And he just explains it to him. Has your organization used tags? And he explains it to him. So you've actually got a little bit of control of the interview. Be very careful when you do this, and make sure that you give control back to the interviewee. And as he moves on to question 24, he gives the control back to the interviewer so he doesn't get himself into too much trouble. But sometimes it's a technique that you might use if you're especially strong in a particular area and you want to show those strengths. But be careful. Be careful when you take control in the interview. You can't hurt yourself. I have done this, and I've done it well, and sometimes I've done it poorly. So the last question I really want to go over before we wrap up today, and you've got the video, so go through it. And you have my lecture, so go through it. But is where they ask you to compare your knowledge to something else. And so in this particular one, Daniel, let's use our imagination and explore a continual development starship. Can you describe how Docker, Kubernetes, Helm, Ansible, and Terraform would fit into the various systems and functionalities of a starship vessel? I think that's a really great question. This is at 24:01. I had a lot of fun with this one, so let's go to 24:01. This will be the last question we look at today, but once again, you have the video to go through and all the notes. So let's go ahead and run it. So he's passed part of the interview. He's ready to go to the next part. He meets another Samantha, and she begins asking him questions.
Daniel, let's use our imagination and explore a continual deployment starship. Can you describe how Docker, Kubernetes, Helm, Ansible, and Terraform would fit into the various systems and functionalities of the vessel?
Okay, that's a good one. Here's a memory palace for a continual deployment starship. As I strolled through the starship, I couldn't help but marvel at the intricate systems that powered the vessel. Docker, the storage system, was like a library of modules and containers, each containing a unique set of functionalities, awaiting the crew's command. As I turned the corner, I stumbled upon the control center, Kubernetes, the conductor of the ship's symphony of systems, orchestrating the deployment and scaling of the ship's various functionalities. My attention then shifted to the navigation system, Helm, which acted like a compass, guiding the crew to the ship's different systems and functionalities. I then stumbled upon the automation system, Ansible, like a magician's wand, empowering the crew to perform tasks and functions without manual intervention. Finally, I arrived at the infrastructure system, Terraform, which managed the ship's resources, like a captain managing his ship's vital resources, ensuring the vessel ran smoothly. It was awe-inspiring to see how each component worked together in perfect harmony, like a well-oiled machine, to power the starship.
So this was amazing because this is something that could take a super long time to imagine and to create, but all I had to do was to stick that question into ChatGPT, and it spit this story out for me, which was amazing. It was just, if you're creating this type of content and you're trying to build these type of stories, and really a lot of learning is about telling a good story, then to have something create content for you so rapidly really accelerates your whole workflow. And so if you just take that same question, you put it right into ChatGPT, it tells you a story, and gives you the answer very quickly, which is just amazing when you're working with these type of systems. Well, that is about all that we have time for. The interview questions are there for you to go through, as is really good for an interview one if you're going for DevOps. And I was fun putting the video together. In the past, it would take me a long time to put this video together, probably, maybe 2 months. I actually put this together in over a weekend just using ChatGPT. So let me read some of the comments here. I believe, let's see here. Everyone is clueless when they start. No one is born a king. Absolutely. Thank you, Jim. I want to appreciate that comment so much. And I always really try to emphasize that. I mean, people ask me all the time, I'm brand new, Mike, what do I do? I just start with the basics, start with you love. We all were new at one time. And technology is moving so rapidly, Jim, is that I feel like a beginner every day. And now with ChatGPT, I go, wow, this just really blows me away. So yeah, very good. And then I think there was another question here. Erica says, indeed, as my bro says, fake till you fake it till you make it. Yes, absolutely, Erica. I see a lot of people that are promoting and moving up the chain just because they have those soft skills, not because they really know the information. So I think the person, Erica, good. Fake it till you make it, and work on those soft skills, and you'll be in there. Absolutely. Thanks. I appreciate that. And then I believe there was another one here by Patricia. Says, for AWS free content, I recommend following Victoria Siman and LinkedIn. I thank you so much for that link. I'll take a look at that. I like I said, I learn more from you guys than you learn from me. So I'm always learning new things like this. As a matter of fact, all those free certs that I talked about from Azure, I learned from someone else in the group when I first started out. So now I tell everyone about it. Let's see, Patricia says, no, I want more, Michael. This was fun, wasn't it? I had a blast with this one. Now, and next time, I'm going to give you an entire set on Google, preparing for the Google exam. If you go through my video set on the Google exam, Architect next month, you'll be able to pass it. Michael, can you provide your Meetup page so I can ensure I stay tuned? Yes, let me go ahead and put the Meetup in the chat. 1 second. Please, yeah, please join. Tell other people to join. Encourage people to join. Everything is free. I don't charge for anything. I'm not sure if I put a course up on Udemy, if I'll charge or not. I'd like to put some free ones up, but if it's over 2 hours, they have to be charged. So anyway, but this group is free and will stay free. So free, tell everyone to join. The more people, the merrier, and the more I can learn, the more you can. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate your participation. Let's see here. iPhone, Michael, can you provide? There's a link. Good. Nivra, will the recording be available? Yes, I will be releasing the recording today as well. Patricia, do you have a YouTube channel? Yes, I do. So let's take a look at the meetup. It's actually YouTube channel, I believe, is in the announcement. Let me go there and put that channel in the chat so you guys can see that as well. See, here's the YouTube channel and the Twitter account. You guys can go there as well. I'll put that in the chat. Yeah, go ahead and use those. Good. Let's see what else we okay, excellent. Okay, have a good rest of your weekend. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off now, guys. Thanks so much for your time. I had a great time. I learned a lot too as well. It was fun interacting with you guys. I will see you next month. I look forward to that. And I'll get this video out here sometime tonight. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.